they're like, well, lightning can cause spikes in the graph. And yes, that's 100% true. But what I would encourage people to remember is it's either all connected or it's not.
Exactly.
You don't get to cherry pick
Exactly.
what is causing this or not. If a lightning discharge happens in the atmosphere, it still spreads out in the ionosphere.
Yes.
And if source is everything, then the delivery method is irrelevant. It's
That's
all
right.
energy. It's how we receive it and what we do with it that matters the most. So,
welcome back to Deep Roots Wellness Podcast. Today, we are diving into a conversation that bridges both science and spirituality in such a beautiful way. My guest is Erin Brown, also known as Consciously Erin. She's a frequency and clarity coach, an intuitive spiritual guide, and the creator of a growing online community where she helps people make sense of energy shifts and align with their highest frequency. One thing that makes Erin so unique is her background. She began her career in healthcare and medical education, helping people see more clearly in a physical sense. Over time, her own journey has led her into the spiritual path where she now helps people see more clearly in their inner world. You may know her on TikTok for her updates on the Schumann resonance, energy shifts, and awakening guidance. She also offers private sessions, tarot readings, and has a thriving Patreon community, all centered around helping people find clarity and live consciously. In this conversation, we are going to explore her journey, what frequency and clarity really mean in daily life, and how collective energy shifts impact all of us. I know that you will walk away with both wisdom and practical tools to apply in your own journey. So let's dive in with Consciously Erin. So Erin, welcome to Deep Roots Wellness Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me this evening.
well, thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Yes. So I would like to start by you sharing your story. How did you get where you are today?
Well, it's a very interesting story. I was a nurse in ophthalmology for 25 years. And then when I hit burnout there, I transitioned and was teaching at a medical school in the area. So just to give you a perspective on what was going on. In 2017, I was diagnosed with a blood disorder called antiphospholipid syndrome, which is what that means is the protein layer on the outside of the red blood cells have been stripped away and it makes you clot, right? And it's often a fatal disease because you can get clots in your lungs, your heart, and whatever. I was diagnosed with this disease and put on a strict medication regimen that I didn't respond well to. It made me sicker and sicker and sicker. But I kept taking the medication thinking I had this disease, right? As a nurse, taking the medication like a good little nurse and doing everything I was supposed to. Then you fast forward a little bit, COVID hit, right? And at this time, I'm working at the university and, we all got sent home. So one day I'm sitting in my office, bored out of my mind. And I thought, you know what? I've never actually researched my own disease. I have time. Let's do that, right? So I log on to the university website and start researching my disease. And I found two things very interesting right off the bat. The first thing was the doctor who discovered it, his name was Dr. Hughes, Dr. Hughes, was actually still alive and still teaching medicine in England. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting. And then I found out that there is, in any disease protocol, there's always certain tests that you have to have that confirm or sort of through process of elimination, this is what you have, right?
Yes.
It's like a protocol. There was a specific test for this disease that I had not had in doing my research. And I found that very interesting because, why wouldn't you have done this? This is weird. So I spent some time and went through my records and nope, wasn't there. So like the good little nerd that I am, I printed up the literature and took my records and went to my specialist. And I said, hey, I don't know what's going on here, but this says that I should have this test. I've never had this test. And that doctor turned around and told me that he was the expert, that I needed to listen to him, and that if I didn't follow his directions, I might just die.
I've been told that too.
Right. So as someone who's literally teaching medicine, that is the wrong thing for you to say to me, right?
Yes.
So I said, thank you very much. I stopped at the desk on my way out. I signed out my records and I left.
Wow.
And I set an appointment the next day for my primary care doctor, who was great, who is still a great doctor. Went in and explained everything to him. And he said, you know what? Let me take a minute, look through your records. And
Mm-hmm.
he took about 30 minutes and went through all my electronic records, couldn't find it. He said, you know what? I'm sure you have this. Why else would he be treating you? I'm going to order the test just so you feel better. I'll feel better. We'll find you a new specialist. He kind of brushed it off.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm sure it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Ordered the test. I had it done. He called me from his personal cell phone at 6 a.m. the next morning. And he said, I need you to come right now to my office because you don't have this disease. And you've now
Wow.
been taking this medication for 2 years at very
Uh,
high doses. And we don't really know what to expect for this to do to your organs if you didn't need it. Like there's no literature on this.
right.
And in that moment, what happened is something that I had given full credence to, science,
Mm-hmm.
completely let me down. And
Yeah.
it shattered that illusion I had of science knows everything.
Right.
And I started really going down this deep, dark hole of, well, if that's not true, then what else isn't true? And it was a
Yes.
huge spiral. And for, I'd say, I don't remember exactly now, I'd say about a week, I don't think I went to work. I didn't get out of bed. I didn't talk to anybody. I mean, I was literally like in this black hole of, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
reliving all
Mm-hmm.
these moments in my life going, was that true? Was that true? And I
Mm.
didn't particularly grow up religious, but that came up too.
Right.
Well, what about that? What are
Mm-hmm.
aliens real? Like everything
Yeah.
started to. And then my daughter one day came in and she's like, hey, have you ever thought about trying meditation? And I immediately jumped into my nurse mode and I'm like, no, that doesn't work. That's all in your head. And she's like, well, obviously you are all in your head. So maybe you should try the meditation.
Yeah.
And at that point, nothing was working. So I said, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a big walk-in closet off of a bathroom, off of my bedroom, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
picture this, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I went in the bathroom, turned off the light, shut the door, went in the closet, turned off the light, shut the door. And then I
Yeah.
put on a blindfold because my brain was so active.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know what meditation it was because the minute I hit play on my phone,
Yep.
my world exploded. I was seeing colors and I was feeling different temperatures in different parts of my body. I was like crying and laughing, and I was seeing, for lack of a better explanation, hallucinations of things that felt like I could reach out and touch them right in front of me. And I was hearing things, different pitches. It was like I walked into a room with the most stimulation possible and it just all turned on at once and it was very jarring. I actually went back to my doctor like 2 days later and I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? And I love him. He just
Mm-hmm.
he sat down on his little stool and he kind of wheeled over and he goes, my friend, he's from Iraq. He goes, my
Mm-hmm.
friend, I don't think you're crazy. I think you need a vacation. And I was like, yeah, maybe. Um, but that's where it started. And there are many things that happened sort of after that to kind of let me know that this is what it was. But it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't something that I was willing to readily accept. I am a trained scientist. Like I
Yeah.
have been trained to question absolutely everything. And if you don't
Mm-hmm.
have a study to prove it, I'm not going to believe you.
Yes.
And I have undergraduate degree in psychology. So like I am going through everything in my head
Mm-hmm.
about, well, maybe I'm having a bipolar break. Maybe I'm having this, maybe it's this, maybe it's that,
Mm-hmm.
but then I started to remember one thing a professor of mine told me in undergraduate. He said, just remember, if people who are crazy don't think they're crazy. So if you're asking yourself, am I
You're
crazy? You're
probably
probably
not.
fine.
Yeah.
So I kept that in the back of my head, but
Mm-hmm.
it really opened a huge door for me. And at the
Yeah.
time, I was firmly anchored in science. I had never touched a tarot card. I had never looked at the Schumann report. I'd
Yeah.
never considered that energy was part of anything. If you had suggested Reiki to me, I would have laughed at you. Like there
Mm-hmm.
were so many things that I was so unwilling to even consider
Yeah.
that now is all like a huge part of my life. Like, and
Oh,
this was
yeah.
just 6 years ago, and not even, barely 6 years ago. You know what I mean? Like 5 years ago. It's not even
Mm-hmm.
2026 yet. Barely six. It's almost 6 years ago, I
Yeah.
guess.
Mm-hmm.
And my life today is a 180 difference from where I was. People who haven't seen me in that amount of time do not often recognize me for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get a lot of, did you cut your hair? Did you lose weight? Did you get
What's
something
that
done?
change?
Did you have lipos? Did you get a nose job? Like, it's always these weird questions. And I'm like, no, dude, I'm just happy.
Yeah.
And you'd be amazed at the looks I get from people like, well, excuse me. And I'm like, yeah, well, why are you worried about it? You know, like,
why does that bother you?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Trigger much? Okay. But that's the basic outline of my story.
It's fascinating how quickly all of this can come into play. I mean, that was just a few years ago.
It is. And the thing is in the moment, it doesn't always feel like it's happening really quickly.
You're right.
It can feel like everything's taking forever.
Mm-hmm.
But looking back, I feel like it was a whirlwind. Like I went from working full time at a university, teaching and working in medicine, to opening a brick and mortar wellness center with a woman who was basically a stranger that I met at a wellness fair.
Wow. Yes.
And working for myself and doing both jobs successfully. Somehow it worked out for like 8 months. And then I finally decided to quit my day job and just full-time this. And then the brick and mortar had to close. And I'm like, well, now what do I do? So I just decided to work for myself. And it's only been a year. I just recognized yesterday that it's only been 1 year since my brick and mortar store closed.
Yeah.
And the amount of growth that has happened for me in that year has been unbelievable. Unbelievable. And while I was sad to say goodbye to that brick and mortar place, I can see 100% now from this vantage point why that had to happen.
Yes.
And I think that's a big problem for a lot of us in the spiritual awakening community is we don't understand why we feel like these things are happening in our lives that feel so destructive.
Right.
But the problem is we're really freaking stubborn, and sometimes stuff just has to be shaken up a little bit.
It does.
It's kind of like your mom shaking you for a second. Pay attention. Like
yes,
you're walking out in a busy street. Kind of one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish we could know in the moment, but I think that's part of the journey is learning to recognize that conflict and duality are there to teach us, and they're not there to be the enemy. And when we can practice something like radical acceptance, it really changes your life. When you stop caring if anybody's noticing that you're wearing dirty sweatpants at Walmart, your life gets so much better.
It does.
It really does.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's looking. And the people who are looking,
that was my next thing. People really don't care.
They don't. And
they are not.
Every person is just like you. Every single person is in their own head about themselves walking around Walmart, not even looking at you. And if they do look at you and do happen to judge you for a moment, in 30 seconds, they're on to the next thing. And
they're not going to remember.
They're going to think about.
Exactly.
So if that's the case.
I say that often to people.
It is. But we as a society have been trained to believe that everything about us matters to everything outside of us.
Yes.
That we have to have the biggest, best, smartest, fastest, flashiest, most expensive.
That's right.
In order to matter or to merit having attention from someone else. Because we've been told that attention from someone else is the ultimate prize.
Exactly.
But attention from someone else does not fill the hole that you have that makes you feel lonely. And there's so many celebrities and people like that who say that all the time. I thought, like Dax Shepard is one I constantly refer to because I really enjoy him. And he struggles with addiction and he's very honest about it. And he talks a lot about how he used to believe when he was a struggling actor, when I have my first big role, it's going to fix everything. I will be happy. I'll have this, I'll have that. And he'll say, you know what? I got that first big role. And you know what? I was still an addict. And I still had the same problems and I still felt lousy. He goes, I had millions of dollars in the bank, big, beautiful house, beautiful wife. I hated my life.
Yeah.
He goes, you tell me, when everything around you is perfect, what's the common denominator? It's you.
Yes.
You are the problem. And until you fix you, nothing else around you is going to matter because it's temporary, it's a Band-Aid, and it's never going to lead to anything sustainable.
That's right. And we stay stuck in that, the stage where we need external validation so badly. And we really do think like you said, people are paying attention to us and they're living in our world because our world, like we are the center of our world and nobody
Well,
is
right.
paying
Well, look at
attention.
our culture, right? Movies and things are so prevalent in our culture. And look at rom-coms, right?
Yeah.
Oh, the girl must be saved, and this wonderful man comes along and completes her
Mm-hmm.
life, and suddenly her life gets better. We've been
Yes.
trained to believe that it requires someone else to
Yep.
make us feel whole in our life. And, n- I, you know, just from personal experience, no
Mm-hmm.
relationship that I have ever experienced can be sustainable when I'm always trying to make you happy, because I'm
Absolutely.
going to resent you for that.
Yeah.
Because now
Yes.
I'm going to feel like I put my life on the back burner. And because you're never going to react the way that I expect you to react, I'm never going to be happy with
100%.
that. Right.
Yes. I agree.
So you have to stop doing that. I think the best relationships come when the two people are individual, but they facilitate happiness within each other.
Yeah.
Right. So my marriage is by no means perfect, but I have been married for 27 years. So what I can say is my husband is a very individual person and he's
Yeah.
very different from me. We have
Mm-hmm.
different friends, we have different friend groups. We even he goes on a guy's trip, I go on a girl's trip, but we do vacations together. We have good conversation.
Mm-hmm.
We encourage each other, you know. He doesn't
Yes.
have to live in my world all the time in order to be my biggest fan. And
That's
that's
right.
something he told me. When I told him I wanted to when I told him I wanted to quit my job at the university to work as a card reader on TikTok, the look on his face was like, "Pardon?" He was like,
Is this for real? I don't
"Say that again?"
understand.
Because he's not at all into this. He's
Yeah.
very
Mm-hmm.
not at all, not even a little bit into
Mm-hmm.
this. So
I
he
can
doesn't
relate with
understand at
that a
all.
lot.
And so it was kind of one of those things where I told him, I said, "Okay, here's what I'm going to ask of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I understand that you don't get it, and that's fine. But I know you know me. And I know you know that I am cautious and mindful when it comes to us as a family, especially. So, what I'm going to ask from you is a favor for you to trust me for 6 months. And in those 6 months, if I cannot demonstrate to you that I can keep us comfortable and moving forward, then I promise you we will revisit this in 6 months and I will be open to the idea of going back to the university or something else.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All you have to do is trust me. I'm not asking you to trust anything else, but trust me." And
Yeah.
he said something, and my husband is adorable, but he said
Mm-hmm.
something to the effect of, "Baby, I'm always your number one fan," or something like that.
Yeah.
And so that's how it started. And it's really
Oh,
because
that's
I have
incredible.
that support, it's given me the freedom to explore this side of my life. And that
Yeah.
I'm actually, and I hate to say this, but I'm making twice as much as I
Mm.
was at the university
That's
with half the amount
good
of
job.
work.
Mm-hmm. That's
But
huge.
that's because I finally started doing something that
Yes.
was aligned with where I wanted to be. And I stopped
Yes.
feeling like I was swimming upstream all the time.
Exactly.
Alignment is easy.
Yep.
Alignment is not, it is, manifestation isn't magic. It's just alignment. Alignment is
Yeah.
easy. It feels like the next logical step. And if you try to rush it, that's when you feel things are out of line. You got to relax, let things play out. We live in a
Mm-hmm.
physical environment. And although I knew I wanted to leave the university, when I decided that, it was a year before I did, because I caught
Mm-hmm.
my time, right? Like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to run away and join the circus. I want to make sure that I'm moving in the direction I want to go, but mindful that I work for a company and I have obligations and I have a real work
Yes.
life and stuff. So over that year, I slowly made changes in my professional life that when it came time and I gave my notice, I quite literally just handed everything over and walked out. They had everything they needed. There
Yeah.
were no hard feelings on either side. It was a very amicable, we wish you the best,
Mm-hmm.
and that I felt good about, I felt professional about, and I felt like that gave me a little push to move forward. I didn't have any guilt with leaving my
Yeah.
job. And I think that's important.
It
It shapes
is.
what you do. It's the feeling that you have.
So you talk about alignment and tell us what that would look like for someone who was completely new to this, barely knows what alignment is. How do they start the journey of learning how to be in alignment?
So that's a really good question with a really giant answer. So I'm going to try to do my best. And I think the best way to explain it for me is to start at the basics.
Yeah.
You have to understand that everything is energy, all the way down to the very nucleus of the atoms in your body that are vibrating strings. This is where string theory comes from, right? Everything
This is
energy.
my language. I love it.
Everything is moving. Everything is vibrating. The table is vibrating. The chair, everything is vibrating at different rates, right? You are vibrating. When we talk about personal frequency, your personal frequency is composed of all of the energy in and around you at that moment. So your personal frequency fluctuates based on the environment in which you find yourself. But you also have a base frequency. That base frequency is constructed. I feel like I got to back up a little bit. So when we talk about emotions, right? Emotion is energy in motion. It is intended to come in and visit, give us an indication as to how in or out of alignment with what we want we are, and then leave. That's what it's meant to do. But when an emotion falls in that we don't like as human beings, grief, anger, frustration, hatred, all those things, we tend to squash it and push it down. Well, we know that physics tells us that energy cannot be destroyed. So friend, it has to go somewhere. So where do you think it went? It went down into your atoms. So if you picture a model of an atom from when you were in school, you have the nucleus in the center and the electrons making a cloud around the outside. For a long time, they told us that cloud was empty. It's not. It's full of potential energy. And that potential energy is the compacted emotions that you have stored in there.
So I'm an emotion code practitioner, which helps people release those trapped emotions and the trapped trauma that's been in our bodies for years. So yes, I'm very
absolutely. So those frequencies, those vibrations make up your base vibration. Now, if you have a dream of, let's say, being a movie star, you have projected onto that dream a certain vibration of the feelings you think it's going to bring to you, satisfaction, joy, whatever it is. If you have a base frequency that is all clogged up with grief, frustration, and anger, you are out of alignment with the frequency of that joy. And emotions that are heavy, like that feel heavy to you, are literally denser in frequency than those emotions that feel lighter to you, which are lighter in frequency.
You explain that so well. Yes.
So when you are in alignment with something, it means the way you are feeling lines up with what you are trying to reach. And when you are in alignment with something, it feels natural and easy and comes as the next step. When you're trying to make something happen that's not aligned for you, that's where you find all those things keep going wrong. The deal falls through, the person never calls, this meeting is missed, the plane is missed. That's when you're trying to force an alignment for something that's just not there. It's like train tracks. You're trying to get this train over here and there's no middle part. So when you are trying to learn to get yourself in alignment for what you want, the first thing I would tell people to do is figure out what it is you think that thing is going to give you.
Right.
What is the feeling you think it's going to give you? Not, it's going to give me a big house. What is the feeling that the big house is going to give you?
Yes.
If that's a feeling of accomplishment, that's fine. If success, stability, whatever, figure that out. And then you have to get in that feeling where you are. And that's where people get stuck because they're like, well, how am I supposed to feel good when I got all of this going on?
That's right. Yep.
And that's a legitimate concern. I get it. And there's no easy answer to that. It's a choice. It's 100% a choice. And it's not about pretending that everything's fine if it isn't. It's about finding ways to focus on things that amplify the feeling you want to have so that momentum can move in the direction you want to go instead of the direction you don't want to go. Yes. So for example, if you wake up in the morning and you say to yourself, today's going to be a terrible day. You're going to stub your toe, drop your toothbrush in the toilet bowl. You're going to lose your keys. You're going to burn your lunch. Your neighbor's going to bring fish. You're going to get fat. You know what I mean? Like there's 100 things that are going to go wrong because you've literally set your alignment for today's going to be a bad day. Law of attraction does not care what you say. It is completely neutral in nature. It is reflective. So if you are putting out a feeling of I'm going to have a bad day, law of attraction says, great, here's 100 reasons for you to feel like you're having a bad day.
Absolutely.
But if you start your day out Instead of laying in bed and going through the list of all the things you don't want to do today,
Yeah.
lay in bed and go through the list of all the things you're super excited about today, no matter how small they are. I'm really excited I get to go get a nice coffee today. I'm really excited that I get to go have lunch with my friend today. I'm really excited that I get to do whatever today. All the things you have to do are going to figure a way into your day. Don't make them the focus. They'll get there. Focus on the things that help you feel better. Amplify those feelings, and when you do, momentum will get a hold of that, and you'll start to get opportunities that present themselves to you to help steer you in the direction of that house that you have set your sights on.
Yes.
But manifestation is, I tell people all the time, it's like asking Source. You say, I want a really fancy birthday cake for my birthday. And Source says, great, here's the keys to a fully stocked kitchen. Yeah. Now, a lot of people would be like, that's not what I asked for. That's not what I want. But you have to realize you've literally been given the keys to make whatever you want. You have to make it, but you can do whatever you want. And it's those choices that we make every day on where we're going to spend our focus that absolutely will help to shift and shape the alignment in which you find yourself. But the environment that you're in is part of that. If you're doom scrolling, if you have, everybody has that friend, right? That friend that when they come over, they bring a glass of wine and a bag of taquitos and they're like, I got to talk about my husband because he's so crazy and you won't believe what he said to me. He bought me a vacuum for my birthday. We all have that friend, and it's great to be there for your friends. But if that friend is someone after every conversation you leave that feeling like you need a vacation, that's an indication that you're draining your own energy. You're lowering your own vibration to be in sync with them. So next time you have that friend come over, instead of sitting in their misery with them, suggest something different.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to go for a walk? Hey, you want to go? There's a sip and paint down the street. You want to go do that? Hey, let's go. There's open mic night. You want to do that? Be the alternative. Be the alternative. Be the alternative.
Great
Don't
suggestion.
just sit in their complacency with them, That's how you can sort of start to curate your environment. Is pay attention to what you're consuming on all levels. Pay attention to where your focus is. Pay attention to your triggers because they are your problem.
Oh, yeah.
They're not anybody else's problem.
Nobody
else's.
else's, yes.
Blaming anybody else for them. That's the first thing I would tell people. But that's what alignment is it's just lining up your frequency with the frequency of the thing you think you want. That's all it is. And something I will tell everybody is, I will say with confidence, 95% of the time, what you think you want is not what you want. But the thing that gives you the feeling you want will absolutely find its way to you.
It's the feeling that you're after. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
It is 100% the feeling that you're after.
And when we can learn to have that feeling without having to have the thing, that's where growth and that's just where growth is.
Well, that's where sovereignty comes in.
Yes.
That's where you get to decide what kind of day you're going to have instead of the guy who cut you off on the freeway getting to decide you're going to have a bad day.
Because it's in our control completely. Completely.
Exactly.
Yep.
Right.
Thank you. That's a great explanation. And I absolutely love the way that you intermingle science and spirituality. And I believe that is initially why I was so drawn to you. And the way I found you as I was looking up the Schumann resonance.
Yeah.
And because I have the app on my phone and I've been watching it for a while, and I can tell when the energy has shifted or there's really strong energy. And so I was looking for more information. That's how I found you. So can you explain what that is?
Yes, I sure can. So the Schumann resonance is a set of extremely low frequency, or ELF, right? This is electromagnetic waves that naturally occur between the Earth's surface and the ionosphere. So you have to picture the Earth has like a bubble around it, right?
Yes.
When you think of the Schumann resonance, it's kind of like when a bell is rung, right? The bell rings and then it spreads out. That's how energy comes in and spreads out in the ionosphere, right? The main resonance of the Schumann energy is 7.83 hertz, although we go up and down and have different harmonics associated with that. And that 7.83 has been steadily staying higher for longer lengths of time. And there's a lot of geologists that are suggesting that the actual frequency of the Earth itself is shifting.
Yes.
Which goes right along with everything in spirituality. So the frequencies that are being measured, there's many different measuring stations, right? So the one I primarily look at is in Tomsk, Russia, and that's the one that's measuring ELF. There are stations all over the world. The other one I typically look at is in Italy. That one is measuring ULF. That's ultra low. Like, first of all, can we just pause for the names? Like, extremely low and ultra low. I'm so excited that a PhD came up with that. But anyway, so I started watching this because I was having lunch with a friend of mine who was a meteorologist, and it was early in the beginning of my awakening experience. And I was saying something about how it felt weird that my mood seemed to change so quickly sometimes. And he made some joke. And then he said, well, have you ever heard about the Schumann? And I go, what's that? And he said, well, he had just literally happened to have been reading a study that had been done that was showing a connection between human brain waves, especially alpha and theta, connected to the energy being measured on the Schumann. And I thought to myself, well, that's really interesting because theta is where you want to be in meditation. So, that's interesting. So I got the app and I started researching it because I am a scientist by nature, and I thought, this is interesting. And what I did is every single day for 365 days straight, I kept track of how I felt versus what I saw on the graph, my own observations, and any other factors. And because I worked for a university, I took 365 data points into the school and put it into a statistical analyzer thing, and it spit out a bell curve. Well, in science, when you have a bell curve, that shows correlation. So I was like, well, that's really interesting. But then I kind of found myself in a conundrum because the next step in the scientific method is for peer review. And I'm just like, well, who in the world am I going to give this to? It's a one-person study, first of all. So nobody's going to read that. And it's on fringe science, right? Who am I going to get to do this? So I was sitting in my living room and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to put it on TikTok. I'm just going to see what happens. I don't know any of these people. There's a certain anonymity behind the screen. I'm just going to put it out there.
Right.
So I did, and it blew me away, the amount of people who responded. Because my first couple videos, I believe I was like, this is how I'm feeling. How are you feeling? Because I want to see if there's a pattern to this. And I got so many people who were responding, oh my God, I feel exactly the same. And I started noticing that it was very prevalent. So I just every day started keeping track and would put out this sort of weather report. And, I recognize that it's not necessarily super helpful if I come on in the morning and tell you what happened yesterday.
Yeah.
But my hope in doing that is that people will start to pay attention to how they actually feel with what the graph is showing them. So then they don't necessarily need me to come on and tell them. If they're feeling some kind of way, they can open up the app and go, oh, I see what's happening, And it's not that I'm trying to dismiss behavior like some people try to blame things on the full moon or whatever it is. I'm not trying to do that. But this is a real scientific correlation here.
Yes.
And it bears study. We are electrical beings. Our brains are electrical. Everything is electrical in us. It stands to reason that we would be affected by an electrical output on our planet, right?
Yes.
One of the big criticisms that people kind of come at me at is they're like, well, lightning can cause spikes in the graph. And yes, that's 100% true. But what I would encourage people to remember is it's either all connected or it's not.
Exactly.
You don't get to cherry pick what is causing this or not. If a lightning discharge happens in the atmosphere, it still spreads out in the ionosphere.
Yes.
And if source is everything, then the delivery method is irrelevant. It's
That's
all
right.
energy. It's how we receive it and what we do with it that matters the most. So, I'm never going to argue with someone about it because I don't feel the need to prove myself. But that's what I understand about that. To me, it's irrelevant, the delivery method. If you get electrocuted by sticking your finger in a wall socket or struck by lightning, you still got electrocuted.
You still got electrocuted. Absolutely. I completely
Right?
agree. That's
So
right.
it doesn't matter.
No.
And yes, there are times that the machinery goes down, absolutely. But I try to be as transparent as possible and tell people, if I see something on the graph that looks unusual and I don't know what it is, I'll tell you, I don't know what this is, but I'm going to watch it. And on the Italian graph, it's really interesting because one of the wavelengths that they monitor has been linked to earthquakes. So it shows up on the Italian graph first, and then a day or two later, there'll be an earthquake somewhere. And recently, I've started pointing this out, and I've been right every time because it's science. I'm not intuiting this. It's just science. Right?
Yes.
I'm just pointing it out to you.
Yes.
You know? And that brings me right to the idea that I want everyone to remember that magic is just science that we don't understand yet. Science is just magic that we happen to understand. And if you look at our history and at what we have now technologically versus what we had 500, 200 years ago even, it would feel like magic to all of those people, the things that even this conversation that we're having.
Yes.
So before you get too on your high horse, try to remind yourself, science is slow. It takes time to catch up, right?
Absolutely.
But there's so much that's being proven in science now that people in spirituality have been saying for millennia.
Yes. And science is catching up to that. And it's backing all of this stuff up.
Slowly but steadily.
That's right.
When I was working at the university, something I did notice is the last year I was there was the new crew comes in, the new students come in. And these were students who went through medical school, who went through their undergraduate degree in COVID. So they're very used to being by themselves.
Yes.
All of those, I don't want to say all, many of those students were much more open to alternative treatment methods like acupuncture and meditation versus just throwing pills at things.
Yes.
So I think we finally have a crop of doctors and practitioners. Nurses, I feel like, have kind of always been there. But we have this crop of doctors and PAs and stuff coming up that are more attuned to the idea of Eastern medicine working in conjunction with Western medicine.
Yes.
Because if we could just get those two to have a conversation, man, we could get some stuff done.
Oh, yes, we could. Absolutely. And our bodies are designed to heal themselves. I say that so many times. I feel like I say that almost
everything we need to take care of ourselves in nature and in ourselves. Absolutely everything. We just don't know how to do it anymore.
Yes, absolutely.
Because we got lazy.
Is that what happened?
Yeah. Yeah,
just a little.
I'm so very lazy. I had to clean my son's bathroom, and I told my husband, I go, would it be bad to hire someone just to clean the bathroom? And he was like,
to clean the bathrooms.
He goes, yes, it would be. And I said, wow, man.
I think that sounds like a fabulous idea.
I think it would be great. But
yeah, you can tell your husband that I'll back you up on that.
Great.
So how have you found, and I know this is not a one size fits all answer, but how have you found the spikes affect people?
So I can tell you the most common things that are associated with activity on the graph. So when you're looking at the Russian graph, the one I use the most, if you see a big white patch, this is new incoming energy. Someone pointed out to me once that the scale on the side of the graph goes backwards. So if I was going by that scale, it should be coming from the bottom up, but I don't even understand that part. So for me, when I see this energy come in, it starts in the crown and works its way down, depending on how far down the graph it goes, depends on how far it reaches in our chakra system, right? Now, we have to also remember that our chakras are a circulation system, just like our circulation system. So when we receive energy in our upper chakras, it will circulate to all the others. It just tends to be concentrated up there. So it's not that the lower chakras don't get energy. It just tends to be a different type of energy, right? When that big white energy is on the graph, the most common thing I see is people tend to have more ideas. They tend to feel more inspired. They tend to start a lot of projects. Physically, people tend to feel like antsy almost, like I need to get up and do something, or jumpy leg is something that people tell me a lot. Trouble sleeping, fitful sleep. Buzzing, people who are very energetically sensitive like myself, I physically my body is buzzing. I can feel it.
Yeah.
People who are sensitive clairaudience may hear it change. But with that big white energy, that's the most common thing I tend to see.
Right.
And then there will be red on the graph up at the top.
Yes.
Red is associated with release energy. And again, starts at those top chakras, right? When we are going through that type of release energy on that graph, the most common thing I see from people is they're more tired, they're less inspired, they tend to be more emotional, they tend to be more reactive, they tend to feel more frustrated. All the triggers tend to get stepped on a lot, all that sort of stuff. When you see a very thin line that goes from the top all the way to the bottom, this is what I call integration. This is kind of like your mom when you're sick, patting you on the back, going, it's okay, just let it in. It's okay, just let it in. It's little pushes of energy to kind of let things into our space, because our energy is I don't want to say it's a closed system, and I don't want to say it's a finite system, but it can only hold so much, right? Because we are physical creatures. So you can't always take everything in all at once. When I talk about intense release energy, it's usually on the Italian graph. I have no explanation other than this is what my guides told me, so this is what I go with, right? That when there's red on the Italian graph, that it's release energy, and that release energy is spawned by Gaia herself, so it starts in the root, which makes sense to me because your root is where you house all of your worldview. So if you're going through growth, the first thing that has to change is your worldview, right?
Yes.
So red on the Italian graph indicates release, and release energy is the same on both sides, right? But the release on the Italian graph tends to be from the bottom up. So those are the main things that tend to show up on the graph.
That all of that makes perfect sense to me.
It does to me too.
Yes. And how, and I have heard some say that it does not have an effect on humans, but how can it not?
Right. Well, it's not logical to think that as electrical beings we aren't affected by the electricity around us. That's not logical. That's not even scientific at all. That's just dumb,
Yes.
But we also have studies that show this, right? So we have to listen to the science, or I choose to listen to the science. One of the questions that people ask me a lot is, how come I feel this before you or after you, or how come I feel this differently than you? And that's a very valid question. And the first thing I want to say is everybody's individual, and you have your own frequency. So you are going to respond to everything completely different than anyone else. So be very careful that you aren't judging your progress based on somebody else, okay? The other thing I want to say is, especially with the white energy, that white energy is associated with theta brain waves. So if you are not close to a theta brain wave state, when that energy is being presented, it doesn't necessarily have room to integrate into your system at that time. So, for example, if that energy is coming in and you're in the middle of a board meeting, that's not the best time for you to get a wild hair about a new project. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yes.
So it kind of forms like this vibrational pocket around you until you then reach that state, that brainwave pattern, and it can integrate itself into your system. So that's why some people feel it before or after me. Energy is everywhere. It's not got a timestamp on it. It's outside of time. So we have to get outside of our human construct that we put all over everything. But that's why, because it's associated with theta brainwave. And if you're not near there, I feel it a lot because, my job is this, right?
Yes,
so I
yes.
literally meditate all day long. So I
Right.
am in a meditative state, in and out of a meditative state from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed. So I'm closer to that brainwave pattern more often than a lot of other people, simply because that's my job. I have to go into meditation before every session, before I do any readings, before I do anything. So I'm constantly doing that. But if you're busy and you haven't meditated in a few days, you may not feel that. But what happens is that energy builds up around you, kind of like a static charge, and you can start to feel it. And you start to get very angsty, like anxiety, and you don't know
Mm-hmm.
what's going on. You're like, why do I feel like I need to do something? Am I forgetting to turn
Yes.
something off? Did I forget to turn off the stove? And it's that displaced feeling that you don't have a good explanation for is often associated with that you have some energy that's waiting on you. Maybe you need to
Yeah.
go take a meditation break or something, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
So you bring up spirit guides, and I know
Yeah.
you channel. My first question is, how long have you channeled, or how long have you known that you've been channeling? And how was that having, like, being in the scientific world? Those two don't always go hand in
No,
hand.
they don't go together at all.
Yeah.
um, I, you know, with hindsight, I
Mm-hmm.
can look back and see many times when I
Mm-hmm.
was channeling,
Yeah.
and didn't know it. I think for me, I didn't realize I was channeling until I recognized what that looked like for me because
Yeah.
I had this sort of definition of channeling as someone like Bashar who
Mm-hmm.
goes into trance
Mm-hmm.
and closes their eyes and they speak in a weird voice and they tell you things, right?
Yes.
Or Jane Roberts is another one who went
Mm-hmm.
into trance channel. And because those were the only references I had, I didn't know what I was doing was channeling.
Right.
It wasn't until I think it wasn't Esther Hicks. I can't remember who it was that I saw. I
Mm-hmm.
was on Gaia TV. I was watching some weird show on Gaia
Mm-hmm.
TV. They have some really interesting stuff on there.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an interview with a woman, and she was just having a conversation and talking just like I normally do. And then she said, "Oh, and that's what channeling looks like for me." And it got my attention.
Yeah.
And so the woman asked her, "Can you describe what that feels like?" And she said, "It's like, when you're talking to someone and you kind of drift off and then you come back and you were talking, but you don't really know what you were
Mm-hmm.
saying." And that's exactly what it feels like for me.
Wow.
Um, it's like being in a conversation with someone and I am daydreaming off somewhere, but still
Mm-hmm.
talking. And then I'll
Mm-hmm.
come back to myself and 9 times out of 10, I really am not 100% sure what I was just
Like,
saying.
mm-hmm.
And it happens all the time. And it used to happen more often, but once I figured out what it was, I said,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, so I need to do this when I know I'm doing it so that I
Mm-hmm.
can utilize this, right?
Yes.
And that's when I started being more conscious about it, like telling my guides, okay, when I come in this room and shut the door, that's when I'm ready to work. If I'm at
Mm-hmm.
Walmart, I don't want to work, right? We're
Mm-hmm.
not having these conversations, right? Because I don't
Mm-hmm.
need to know about her husband having an affair. Like, please,
Right.
you know?
Right. Yes.
So uh, that's kind of where that came from me. But it took a lot of, I don't want to say convincing because that's the wrong word. I had
Mm-hmm.
to see a reflection of what it actually felt like to me before I believed that that's what it was, is the best way I can say that.
Yes. Yes.
Because I
Um,
was very in my head about it
oh, absolutely. So you doubted yourself,
all the
especially.
time. I still
Yeah.
doubt myself. I still
Mm-hmm.
doubt myself. That's a common misconception is I think people think I look like I got it all together. I I don't have it all together. I'm a highly introverted person. I know I look extroverted. I don't ever leave my house. This is the most extroverted I get. I'm just, but when I'm sitting in my channel, I
Mm.
have my energy plus the energy of my guide with me.
Yeah.
I'll start sweating like I am now, and I'll start talking about random things, and it just sort of takes over. And that's what
Mm-hmm.
it feels like for me. But so many people get in their head and they tell themselves, well, I'm not a channel because it doesn't look like that. But we are all individual. It's like a fingerprint. Your fingerprint is unique to you.
Oh,
So your gifts, your connections, I don't really like the word gifts because we all have them, and gifts implies you have to earn them. But all our connections, they're all available to you. It's just figuring out how it works for you and using what you already know about yourself. So, for example, I'm very moved by music, especially classical music.
right.
So that was an indication to me that I had some sort of clairaudience. I didn't know how my clairaudience spoke to me yet because I had told myself it sounds like a voice, like Uncle Tom talking to you. Um, but what I started to recognize is that there are only certain songs that will give me goosebumps, the frisson, the goosebumps. And I started paying attention. When I started to hear a song that gave me that, I'd stop and listen to the song, and there was always a message in that song. So what I started to do is I have an iPhone, and if you Shazam a song on iPhone, it will create a playlist of those songs for you.
Right.
So I started to Shazam every song that gave me that feeling and created a
Mm-hmm.
playlist. Now, one of the ways I communicate with my guides every single day is I get up in the morning and I close my eyes and I open the playlist, I close my eyes
Mm-hmm.
and I say, "Tell me a story about my day," and I hit shuffle. And the first 3 songs that come up will always give me some sort of indication of how my day is going to go. And
Mm-hmm.
I change songs out, get rid of some, keep some, change them out here and there. But it has been
Mm-hmm.
that's how my clair audience speaks to me is always through music. It's not a voice. It's never been a voice. But I
Right.
also hear tones or pitches in my ears,
Mm-hmm.
which I dismissed forever because I thought I just had tinnitus. But
Yeah.
no, that's not what that is.
Mm-hmm.
It comes and goes and it changes
Mm-hmm.
based on the circumstances. So it's just paying attention to the really small things that are unique to you are where you're going to find your greatest connection.
Mm.
I hope that
So,
answers the question. I feel like I
oh, it
kind of went sideways
absolutely
with
answered
it.
my question. Yes. And thank you for that. So, we all have the abilities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You have to remember that this universe is dualistic in nature, right?
Mm-hmm.
Up, down,
Mm-hmm.
black, white, male, female, yes, no,
Right.
right? Day, night. So if you have 5 human senses or 5 physical senses, you have
Mm-hmm.
5 metaphysical senses to match that, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So your 5 metaphysical senses are available to you just like your 5 senses here. The difference with them is that they've been trained out of you. So when you go back to it, you're going to have some that you are more easily able to access and
Mm-hmm.
utilize than others.
Right.
But it's kind of like playing the piano. Some people can sit down and play the piano perfectly after one lesson. And some people, they take lessons for 10 years and can barely play chopsticks,
Yeah.
but they can still do it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you're
Yes, that
going to
makes
have
sense.
some of these clairs that are more sensitive and more active for you than others. But I've also noticed that the more you move along your awakening path, the
Mm-hmm.
more they open because a
Yes.
lot of the reason that you don't have access to them is because you don't have a belief that you have access to them.
Yes.
And you can tell yourself all day long, I believe it. But if you have some core belief inside of you that tells you that it's science fiction to be able
Yes.
to have telepathy, then you're
Mm-hmm.
never going to be able to do it because you've told yourself you can't.
Yeah.
And you are the most strong influence in your life. And what you
Mm-hmm.
say absolutely matters.
Yeah.
So that's part of it is getting out of your head about it. Oh, I can't do this. I'm not this. I'm not that. Don't tell yourself that.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between not knowing how and not being able.
Yes. Yes. My clear cognizance has always been the strongest, which I didn't even know what that meant. But I went to my first Reiki session and now I perform Reiki. But and this was before anybody knew that I was exploring any of this.
Mhm.
And she shared that with me. She's like, I don't know if you want to know this information, but I feel like you are strongly, or you have like she called it gift, of course, but claircognizant. And I said, what is that? I have no idea what that is. And she explained it to me. I was like, yeah, yes, like that resonates big time.
Yeah.
And then I started doing research and looking into everything more, and my world was blown again. My world
Yeah.
has been blown so many times during this
Well,
awakening.
and there's something too, I think it's really kind of funny, is sometimes these things manifest in ways that you don't have any, what am I supposed to do with it? Like, like
Mm-hmm.
my claircognizance tends to manifest itself in the most useless situations. Like, for a perfect example, I was sitting on the porch with my husband one day, and this bird lands on the railing, and he looks at it. He goes, "Wow, I've never seen that bird before." And I go, "It's a western yellowfinch or something." And he looked
Yeah.
at, I said the
It's
name,
like,
and he
how
looked
did
at
you
me and he
know
goes,
that?
"Why do you know that?" And I go, "Why do I know what?" And he goes, "Why do you know what that bird is?" And I go, "Did I say what that bird was?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I go, "Oh, I don't know. I just know." And he goes, "Well, that can't possibly be right." And I'm like, "Oh, I don't, I didn't
I
thinking
don't know.
he's on his phone. He's good. He goes, "How did you know this was this bird?" And that's how it works for me. Like, I don't always know when I'm going to know what I know.
Yes.
Just like I have
Yes.
this sort of, I hate to call it a talent because it's kind of morbid, but
Mm-hmm.
if you show me a picture of someone, I instantly know if they're dead or alive. I don't know where they are.
Hmm.
I don't know how they died,
Listen to
but I know if they're dead or
that.
alive. And someone told me, they go, "Oh, well, you should do this. You should offer this service to people." I go, "No, that is
Mm-mm.
so unhelpful
Yeah.
for you to
Yeah.
come to me with a picture of your missing loved one and for me to
Yeah.
say they're dead, or for me to say
Mm.
they're alive, but I don't know where they are."
Right.
That is
Yes.
completely unhelpful. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that's what this looks like. Not everything is going to be magical feeling and
Yeah.
have this amazing result in your life. Sometimes it's just weird, you
Yes.
know.
I completely
Sometimes it's
agree
just
with you.
odd. It's just the way it is, you know.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So with the channeling and all the stuff, tell me how that plays into like the services that you provide.
So, I have many different things that I do.
Mm-hmm.
So my ultimate dream is to build an online metaphysical university where you can go and earn a
Mm.
certificate or a degree in a line of study.
Mm-hmm.
And I am currently working to build that on Patreon.
Yeah.
So on my Patreon channel, you will find my podcast. You will find access to my class series, which is called Professor Brown Breaks It Down.
Oh, I
And
love
in
that.
that class, which is 10 weeks long, we cover topics ranging from the chakras to quantum mechanics and
Mm.
everything in between.
Mm-hmm.
I also have a book club called the Soul Quest Book Club, which is
Mm-hmm.
the Soul Quest is a self-guided life coaching program that I wrote so that
Mm-hmm.
anyone could have access to life coaching. And the Soul Quest Book Club is where we go through one chapter at a time as a group and discuss everything so that we can talk
Mm.
about it, kind of like a support group.
Mm-hmm.
I also post a written version of the daily Schumann report on my Patreon channel. And on the written version, I tend to get a little more into, I expand it a little bit because I have more
Mm-hmm.
freedom there. So Patreon is the first place I would encourage people to go. I also once a month am going to start doing something called the Channels Chair, which is very exciting for me. And it'll be kind of a situation like this where you join and you can ask me questions and I will bring you whatever answer comes forward. So I'm open to
Oh.
anything about what, from why am I stuck in this loop of behavior to how does the universe work? Like, let's talk
Mm-hmm.
about it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's once a month. And then on all the social medias, I am Consciously Erin. It's the same on every single social media. Please know there are a lot of scam accounts that steal my stuff and pretend to be me.
Mm-hmm.
The only way to have a private session with me is to go to my website, which is consciouslyerin.com, and schedule it yourself. And a cardinal rule is if you cannot see my face, you are not talking to me. So please be mindful of that. I do offer through my website a couple different types of private sessions. My longer sessions are channeled conversations, very similar to this, where I tell people bring any question you have and we'll talk about it. I rarely pick up my cards in that because I'm using my channel. I do offer tarot card readings. If that's all you're interested in, I'm happy to do that for you as well. But I promise you, you're going to get a lot more if you just have a conversation with me. And
Yeah.
that's the rub, is getting people to realize that.
Mm-hmm.
I do live tarot readings currently, Monday through Friday from 9 to 11 a.m. on TikTok.
Okay.
I don't know how long TikTok's going to be around. I don't know what's going on with that. But if
Mm-hmm.
TikTok should disappear, I will be on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And I do live readings on YouTube sometimes too. So the best way to find me, honestly, is either Patreon or YouTube. That's the most reliable way, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm very excited. I'm looking forward to, I have a lot of things in the works, some collaborations coming up that I'm very, very excited about. And I'm looking forward to maybe one day having my own retreat. But
Mm-hmm.
consciouslyerin.com or Consciously Erin on any of the social medias is where you can find me.
Great. And I also will put everything in the description.
And I just want people to know on my Patreon, like there's
Mm-hmm.
so much information on there. You can't read it all in a month. And every month there's new stuff added. In the shop, There, each month I upload one or two new chapters from a book that I wrote. It's 650 pages of a spiritual reference guide. And rather than publish the whole book, I put it out one chapter at a time, and then you can read whatever you want because they're self-contained chapters like an encyclopedia. You don't have to read the whole book front to back. So if you're interested in a specific topic, if you go into the shop, odds are there's going to be a PDF in there that you can download and read it. So it's a huge resource of information for people. And
Perfect.
it's a very big and very growing community. There's 900 people on there right now, and everybody's in the same place you are. So if you feel lost, if you feel alone, go make some friends on there. That's a community that we're building together.
I love that. I cannot wait to check it out.
Yes,
I for sure will. I'm excited about that. So I have one more question back to channeling real quick. What is the biggest misconception about energy channeling that you wish people understood?
That you have to work hard and accomplish something in order to be able to do it.
Yeah.
I think people have it in their head that they have to be special.
Yeah.
And something I want everyone to remember is this. 98% of the planet is walking around unaware that all of this even exists. Exactly. What makes you special is you know it's there. That's it.
Yeah.
That you are 100% in. And once you're in, and everybody here loves you. But you have to be patient with yourself. And you have to remember that everything is unfolding the way it should, even though your impatient little self thinks it's not. But when you can look back later, you'll completely understand it. You have got to be patient with yourself. And that goes for channeling, that goes for, working with cards, pendulums, anything. You have just got to be patient and trust yourself. Don't, one of the best pieces of advice I got, and I will give it to everyone here. When I was first learning to read cards, I used to ask people, does that make sense? Does that make sense? Like halfway through, does that make sense? Does that make sense? And I had a fellow reader tell me, don't do that. And I said, why? And she said, because you're planting doubt in your own reading.
Yeah.
And she said, and let me ask you this. If they say no, is it going to change what you're saying? Because if it does, you're not saying anything true.
Right.
And I said, well, that's true. It's not going to change what I say.
Point.
She said, so stop asking. And I said, okay. And she goes, you also have to remember that you're throwing a lot of information at them. So they're probably 3 sentences behind you. So when you say, does that make sense? They're thinking about 3 sentences ago. Yeah. And then they say no, and you get in your head, and then they catch up and go, no, wait. And now you're already off track. So don't. She said, you're not going to be 100% accurate. Nobody can be 100% accurate.
Right.
But you can only tell them what you know to be true, and they can do with that what they want.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what I started doing, and it made a huge difference.
I bet it did. I can see that.
Not to say I don't doubt myself, because I do, but I stopped giving it free rent in my head.
That's right.
And started paying more attention to how much I'm feeding that, and that made a big difference.
That's huge. Thank you so much for sharing. And Erin, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
I was really glad to be here.
Yes.
It was really fun.
It would. This has been amazing, and I look forward to the future, and I'm going to check out your Patreon and so your podcast.
Yes, it's
What's it called?
Between Frequencies.
Okay, perfect.
And it's on Apple, it's on Spotify, but you can get to it easiest through my Patreon, because once you click on it, it just opens whatever app you have.
Okay.
If you search Between Frequencies on Apple, there's like 700 things, and because my podcast is really small, it's like the last one. So the easiest way to get to it is go to my Patreon. It's right at the top. You just click it. I've interviewed some really interesting people. I interviewed an astrologer from Croatia who talked about global astrology. It was really interesting. The episode that's airing on Friday, I interviewed Jordan Crowder. I don't know if you know who he is, but he goes by the name Alive and Kickin' on TikTok. He had a near-death experience that changed his life, and went to the Monroe Institute and learned how to remote view. And he's just incredibly intelligent and very interesting to talk about. And all these wonderful people I've talked to, emotion code practitioners and human design practitioners, because my goal with the podcast initially was to bring as many tools to the table as I could, so that as many people as possible could could find healing.
Mm-hmm.
And through that process, I have met some of the most incredible people. I had a great conversation with this guy named Raymond Christian. He is an AI developer.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were talking about ethical use of AI, and is AI the next step in human evolution? And what
Right.
does that mean for us? And, all these things that I wouldn't normally have thought about. He brought up a
Mm-hmm.
lot of great stuff. So there's a lot of good content there.
That's great. I cannot wait to listen. And I think that's been my favorite part of this so far, is meeting so many people like you, and just it's that's my favorite part. It's
And the
incredible.
people that you meet when you're on this journey, they're
Mm-hmm.
different.
Yes.
It tends to
Yes.
feel effortless. You don't feel
Mm-hmm.
like you need to, your friend circle is going to get a lot smaller, but a
Mm-hmm.
lot more meaningful.
Yes.
The friends that I have now are the kinds of friends that we could go sit together on a beach and not have a conversation for four
Yeah.
hours and be totally fine with that.
Yep. Completely
There's
comfortable.
no need to entertain each other. We're just
Yeah.
comfortable with where we are. But they're also the friends that if I need something, I know in a second they'll be there.
Yes.
So I went from having a lot of empty friendships to having
Mm-hmm.
very few, very meaningful friendships.
Mm-hmm.
And I get way more reward out of the few meaningful ones than I ever got out of the giant circle of shallow friendships.
Absolutely. Yes, I have found that too. Thank you. Thank you again.
Yeah, of course. It was super fun. And I'd love to do it again sometime.
And we will, because I did not get to all of the subjects that I wanted to get to. And so there's
Well,
plenty
we'll
more
do a
that I would
follow
love
up.
to
We'll
talk
do a
about.
follow up.
Yes,
Absolutely. You
please
tell me.
do.
I'm happy to do it.
That sounds
Happy to do
great.
it.
Well, I will be in touch very soon. And thank
All
you.
right.
What a powerful and eye-opening conversation with Erin Brown, or Consciously Erin. I love how she bridges the scientific with the spiritual, and how she brings such grounded clarity to topics like frequency, energy shifts, and the Schumann resonance. I hope you're walking away feeling not only inspired, but also equipped with practical tools to raise your own vibration and move forward with more clarity. If you felt connected to Erin's wisdom, make sure you follow her on TikTok and Instagram at Consciously Erin. You can also check out her website to explore her private sessions, tarot readings, and exclusive community offerings. All of those links will be in the show notes for you. And as always, thank you for tuning in to Deep Roots Wellness Podcast. If today's episode resonated with you, please take a moment to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might need this message. Remember, you are not alone on this journey, and you are exactly where you're meant to be.